This is the new Audi RS3. Audi have just updated it, and they've also updated the price. It now starts from over £60,000. However, this is the original Audi RS3, and these are now available from as little as £10,000. Question is that new RS3 really 6 times better than this? We're going to find out. I'm Matt Watson, and you're watching CarWow.
In this video, I'm going to compare their designs, test their power figures, drag race them, and I'll uncover a few secrets along the way. But first, let's talk engines, because that's the main reason you buy an Audi RS3. Audi's iconic 5-cylinder engine started life in the Audi 100 from the 1970s, but it achieved cult status in the legendary Quattro, which was the first all-wheel drive car to win the World Rally Championship. Audi revived the 5-cylinder layout for the brilliant RS2 in the 90s, and in 2009 for the first ever Audi TT RS. 2 years later, the same engine appeared in this, the Mk1 RS3.
It's a 2.5 litre 5-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine which puts out 340 horsepower and 450 newton meters of torque, drives all 4 wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox. Having to hold the bonnet up because this gas strut has worn out. The joy of old cars. The new car has a bonnet strut that works, but it also has a 2.5 litre 5-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine. However, this one is all aluminium. The old car has an iron block.
Audi made this switch in 2017 when it facelifted the Mark II RS3. This new engine, which also had a lightened crankshaft, helped reduce the RS3's weight by about 26 kilograms. And because the engine is mounted so far forward, the lighter block also improved the car's weight distribution and handling. But that's not all.
We also get more power from this new engine. 400 horsepower and 500 newton meters of torque. Yet again though, driving all 4 wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox. That's better.
This extra power comes from a completely reworked ECU, a new air intake and a new exhaust system. Plus, there's a new turbo with higher boost pressure. The original Mk1 RS3 could produce a maximum boost pressure of 1.2 bar, but this new car can supposedly achieve 1.5 bar of pressure, and I'll see how these upgrades affect their performance by drag racing these cars later in the video.
But first, I want to know if Audi's lying about the performance figures on this new RS3, so we're going to stick it on a dyno and measure its power and torque. Before that though, we're actually going to test the original RS3 to see how much horsepower is left in its 13-year-old engine. Is it going to turn out to be a bit of a bargain or a total ball ache?
This is Doug. He runs MRC Tuning in Banbury, and he has decades of experience modifying high-performance Audis.
Let's have a little bet. So I bet you £10, based on all my knowledge, 20 years as a motoring journalist, that I can guess the power figures of these cars, in reality, closer than you, even though you're an Audi expert. Let's do it anyway. 10 quid, up for grabs. Take that, give that to Jack. So I reckon the old car's going to do slightly less than what it's supposed to. I reckon it's probably doing 330 horsepower. The new one, I reckon it's doing slightly more. I reckon they're going to make it as powerful as the A45, so about 425 horsepower. What do you think?
I think the new one's going to do 420 and this is going to do 360.
Really?
They always do a little bit more.
Oh bugger, even like a 13-year-old one?
Even a 13-year-old one, yeah.
Can I have another go? I think I might have just lost £10. We're just warming the car up now, and I've noticed it's got a Miltec exhaust on it. It's also got an intake. I just spoke to Doug and he reckons that that will add about 10 horsepower over standard. So I think I've just lost myself £10 for sure. This sounds nice. It's that 5-cylinder warble. Oh. This RS3 sounds really healthy for a 13-year-old car.
But all RS3s tend to sound pretty special because of their unique 1, 2, 4, 5, 3 firing order. This gives them a richer tone than engines with an even number of cylinders. Only V10s, like in an Audi R8 or a Lamborghini Huracan, sound similar because they're basically 2 5-cylinder engines stuck together.
Okay, Doug. Let's have a quick look at your face.
This isn't a very nice car.
It's a very nice car.
It's not a very nice car.
Oh, really?
It pulls back timing.
This means the spark plug is igniting the fuel too late, which produces less horsepower. Cars do this automatically to protect their engines from pre-ignition or knocking caused by poor quality fuel. But these engines are running on 99 octane, so I asked Doug what else might be the cause.
Old spark plugs, even old coil packs, or carbon build-up in the inlet, or bad injectors as well.
Right, direct injection injectors. I know there's a problem with direct injection engines can get carbon.
They get carbon build-up, yeah, because there's nothing cleaning the intake ports.
What you're telling me basically is that I guess correctly.
You guessed correctly.
Doug! Let's have a look at the graph. Sorry for the owner of this car. Sorry, I'm not celebrating the fact that your car's underperforming, but let's find out.
I did 340 on the first run.
Yep.
Second run 338, and the third run I lifted off near the end because I didn't like it. Pulling back. It was actually pulling back a couple of degrees more time, and so I just lifted off.
So basically the best we've got out of it is 340, what it's supposed to do.
But in Doug's experience, a healthy Mk1 RS3 should be producing a lot more. So we'll investigate exactly what's going on with this engine a bit later in the video. But what does this mean for the torque figure? Will that also be a bit disappointing?
Well, it did 431, 438, but the torque is easy to make even on an engine that doesn't run well, because that's basically your peak boost that it runs coming on, and that will give you the torque figure.
So this car was producing about 12 Newton meters less than the 450 Audi claimed, which isn't terrible. However, Doug explained that unhealthy engines can produce lots of low down torque, but they can't sustain it at high revs when all their components are under much greater stress. This is important because horsepower is just torque multiplied by engine speed. So if you have less torque at high revs, then you have less power. Now let's see how much power and torque the new RS3 makes.
Will it sound as good as the old car? Yeah, it sounds good. We're looking for 425. Okay then, Doug, let me just gauge from your face. 420.
410.
Oh, you win that one! So not quite as high as you're expecting. Why is that?
Boost drops off at high revs a little bit more than the pre-facelift.
Really?
Yeah, ever so slightly, marginal. This was 1.3 bar, was up to 1.4 bar to give you a peak power number at 6,000, then drops to 1.1. Whereas the pre-facelift just holds that 1.4 just that little bit longer, so it's so marginal.
So despite being a bit down on boost, this car is actually producing 10 horsepower more than Audi claims. Interestingly, I dynoed a pre-facelifted RS3 a few years ago and it produced 413 horsepower. So the extra boost only made 3 extra horsepower, which nobody would notice out on the road. But what about our little bet? Well, I was closest to the old car's power figure, but Doug was closest to the new car's, which means we both got our money back. But I'm also interested to see how much torque this new car made.
So this car's supposed to do 500 Newton meters of torque. What are you finding?
518.
518, so a little bit more.
Yeah, it's pretty much dead on, because if you look, it's a little bump that makes it 518.
Okay.
So it's pretty much 500 flat.
Until that bit where it tails off just a little bit sooner than you'd like.
Yeah.
But the good thing about all RS3s is they're easy to tune. You could completely rebuild the engine to get crazy power figures like this 800 horsepower RS3 I drove a few years ago.
Nuts!
But even simple ECU tunes get excellent results. MRC offers a stage 1 upgrade for this old RS that remaps the ECU and gearbox and boosts power to 400 horsepower, all for just £1,000. But there's no point tuning a car if it's going to fall apart the first time you launch it. So we put this 13-year-old RS3 with 85,000 miles on a lift to see what might be hiding underneath.
So first thing I can see, Doug, is there's quite a bit of oil.
Yeah, there's oil leaking from a few places. Oil just starting to leak from the gearbox cover here. Transfer box here is just starting to drip. When you do an oil filter change, it ends up being messy, so it could just be that the oil from the filter's just made a mess here. But it is starting to get a bit of oil down the length of the car. It is missing an under tray.
I've noticed that we've got quite easy access to the underside of the
So
car.
it'll leave a mess on your driveway if it starts to drip, and it is just starting to drip in places.
Is this normal though for like a 13-year-old car?
It's just gaskets and seals starting to go,
In terms of the suspension and stuff, it doesn't look too bad or corroded.
Yeah, the discs are starting to have lips on them, but they're consumable.
Yeah, it's wear and tear, right?
Yeah, you've got a Miltec catback, which is just touching the brace bar here. It does have a fuel filter just above your head. They do have dates on them, but they're hard to see, but it's something that usually gets left off from servicing.
Could that be affecting the power if it's not really, if it's a bit clogged?
Not really, because it's got a fuel pump on the engine as well. So as long as it's getting enough fuel there, even if it is clogged, then it should be okay. And then the Haldex, it's been serviced recently-ish because the bolt is new-ish looking. Generally, it doesn't look too bad. It's a lot worse than this for rust.
So overall, the condition of this car is quite a good one.
Yeah, it's been looked after.
But there's one thing that some RS3 owners neglect: the ignition coils. If these were original, it could explain why the engine wasn't producing as much power as Doug expected.
So the coil pack's got the date on it. What does it say?
So it's week 35, year 12, so that's just before it was registered. So original coil packs. The cam cradle is just starting to leak because it's got oil at the bottom of here. So the spark plug is going to have oil around it.
So what could cause the oil leak then? Is it a gasket?
There's a gasket on the cam cover, and there's also a sealant around the cradle, the camshaft cradle. It could be either.
Is that a big job to fix that?
Cam cover's relatively easy. Cradle's a bit more involved because it's taken the cradle that holds the camshafts off.
Right, so we check the other ones. Actually, let's check the spark plug, see if that's original as well.
So we can see that it's covered in oil. See if it's got the date on it, 2023. So that's still, it could be a couple of years old, but then they could have been on the shelf or in stock. But it does have oil over it.
So that's the same thing again, the leaking gasket. Seeing as I now know that you're a betting man, Doug, would you bet that the coil packs and the oil leak are the cause for the loss in power?
I think it's going to be injectors.
Yeah, okay, even after all of that, it's going to be injectors.
Because the injectors are still the same age, and it's so common on these.
So what would you do with this car? Would you replace that lot?
I'll do the cab cover gasket, replace the coil packs, probably do the plugs as well, and check the injectors and take it from there.
And then we could probably get to your claimed 360 horsepower. Though to be fair, despite all this, the car is still doing the horsepower that Audi claimed it would do.
It is.
But despite being slightly down on power, this old RS3 has a fighting chance in a drag race against the new car, because the last time I raced each generation of RS3, the pre-facelift Mark III actually launched worse than the two older cars. However, before we get to that, let's compare these cars' designs.
As part of a midlife facelift for the RS3, Audi has given it a more aggressive lower front bumper. They've fitted it with their new badge. Not a fan of that. It's also got some new headlights with the daytime running lights, which you can actually configure. You definitely don't get those on the old car. Now, moving down the side, you'll notice we've got these air intakes here, carbon fibre, because this is the carbon black edition. We've also got updated alloy wheels. There only one size is available, 19 inches. And interestingly, the front tyres are an inch thicker than the rears for more aggressive turning, apparently. We've got carbon fibre on the door mirrors here, lots of creases down the body, and we also have carbon fibre side skirt. There have been no changes to the side of the car as part of the update apart from those alloy wheels. Here at the back, they're giving it a new diffuser. Once again, this one is shrouded in carbon fibre. Not sure I like the look of this. Probably doesn't do much diffusing, more confusing. What's also confusing, the exhaust pipes. So all Audi RS models have two oval exhaust pipes, but if you look inside, there's two exhausts in each of them. So you've got quad tail pipes, just like on an S3. They're trying to hide that. And the carbon black edition gets this extra roof spoiler, which looks a little bit stuck on an aftermarket, a bit like the new logo. So this old car looks very good actually in this red, and the red paint, sometimes it can fade, but this is still nice and shiny. Speaking of shiny, we've got a silvery grille, so the surround is in silver, so is the insert. However, you could get the car with a black grille. What wasn't black though, the Audi logo. Nice and shiny and silver. And then the RS3 had this more aggressive front bumper compared to the standard A3 with these particular vents here, which all do something. They lead somewhere, it's all good, it's all real. There's something a bit odd on this car because I can see red paint coming through on this silver trim. Why is that? Well, I'm down here, let's have a quick look what the underside is like. Oh yeah, a few scuff marks then. You can see the red paint coming through there as well. That's just usual going over a speed hump kind of thing. Also, we've got old school tech lights, so xenon headlights, none of your fancy LED stuff here. What's interesting is that this car, like the new one, has widened wheel arches, but they're made out of carbon fibre. So if you bang these wings, they're going to be quite expensive to replace. Wheel sizes, they haven't grown over the years, they're still 19 inches, and I prefer the look of these older alloy wheel designs. I think this car is sitting slightly wider than it would have done as standard, and yes, I can see some spaces there, over a centimetre at the front, and have a look at the rear. slightly narrow at the back. You'll notice down the side there's just less creases going on compared to the new car, which has so many creases. It's almost a little bit like a piece of origami. Now we've got the door mirrors here in this satin silver, a telltale sign that it's an RS3. This looks a bit aftermarket. They didn't come with like half black door handles. That's a wrap. We've got side skirts down here making the car look wider, but the rear quarter of the car is just the same as a standard A3, unlike with the new car, which is actually physically wider than the standard model. Moving to the rear, we've got a more sensible rear spoiler. Once again, this is a wrap, a bit of a modification by the owner, and they've also oh no, I just poked that poked it through there. Sorry Damon, thanks for lending us a car. We'll sort that out.
Luckily, Jack was on hand with his special tool.
Yay! Anyway, let's continue. So this badge looks like an aftermarket add-on. In fact, it is. I can tell it's stuck on. And what else is going on? Yeah, we've got the silver trim here as well, signifying it's the RS model. But the biggest giveaway are the two tailpipes. They're not oval on the original RS3. Obviously, this is an upgraded exhaust, but this is what the standard one looks like.
Overall, the new car is definitely more aggressive, but I always liked the way old Audi RS models looked like Q cars. Nowadays, even a 1.5 litre Audi A3 S-Line looks pretty sporty, so the RS model has to look absolutely bonkers if it wants to stand out. And there's something else about the old car I really like too.
I think this is peak interior design for Audi. The simplistic dash, but the quality is good, and on the door tops, definitely better than the equivalent 1 Series from this era. Audi just stood out in terms of interior quality. It's not the case anymore. Obviously, as you go low down, some of the materials are a bit scratchy. The only thing that really dates the interior are the digital bits, so the infotainment system, this digital display there for the climate control and the little twisting knobs for temperature, and then the little digital display there which shows you car information, which it's sort of like from a Game Boy. But I do like the clear rev counter and speedometer and the RS3 badging. Notice something on this car as well. Look, we have some leather covered grab handles. It's a bit special. Oh, and there's this as well, a little extra sun visor to just block out the light from that part of the mirror. Now the RS3 had an upgraded steering wheel, flat bottom with the RS3 logo on it. You've got an RS gear selector. You've also got these RS sport seats which feel quite comfortable, and to tell you the truth, they seem to have worn quite well considering this car's almost done 86,000 miles. You've also got some carbon fibre bits here. I doubt that that was standard, it was probably an upgrade. We've got some RS3 mats though. I don't think these are the original ones, they're probably aftermarket. And your RS3 on the sills and some aluminium pedals which once again have worn very well. But there are some other bits that haven't worn so well. So look at the steering wheel, it's a bit worn on this side whereas not so much on this side, so someone's clearly been just driving along like that. I've noticed there's this bit of trim in here along with the owner's coins, which I think comes from this bit here. I think they're related. Also, I've noticed that the door does creak a little bit. Have a listen. I don't think that's the kind of problem you're going to have with a new car. That sounds a bit rude, doesn't it? The door on the new RS3 doesn't creak, but it beeps when you open it, if you've got the ignition on. Which would you rather have? Beeping or creaking? You can fix a creak, but not a beep. Anyway, so as part of this midlife update, Audi has given it a new steering wheel, which has a flat bottom and a flat top. You also got RS badging on it, and it's got these new buttons here, so the RS mode there and a checkered flag mode there. It also has touch sensitive controls for the infotainment system, which is really frustrating because you accidentally brush them when you're driving and turn up the volume when you didn't want to. Also, you've got some new seats which are made by Sobel, and they are really nice. Really, I prefer these than the ones in the old car. And being a fabric rather than leather, you don't slip around in them either. Also, they've got the RS badging on there. They look really sporty as well as feeling very sporty. One of the problems I have with this car though is that the interior just seems over-designed. There's too much going on, like the way these air vents are supposed to mimic those in a Lamborghini Urus, and there's just shapes, creases, scoop. There's lots happening. At least you have physical controls for the climate, so you don't have to do it through the touchscreen, and the touchscreen is obviously up to date and much better than in the old car. You've got digital dials which mimic those in the old car, but if you go into a different mode you can get a slightly different dial, which is a weird shape and pointless, and I don't like that. Another update Audi has made to this car is put some LED lights in the door as well as, you know, in the dash and in the footwells that you used to have before, and they've updated this interior trim, so it's supposed to look a bit more metallic. Same with the trim on the gear selectors. So they're still plastic, but they do feel a bit more metal, and more metal than the ones in the old car. Speaking of which, the indicator stalks just feel a little bit nicer damp than the clicky ones. And while the materials on the door top and the dash do feel nicer than in the old car, there's a lot more more plastic going on throughout, especially the door handle. So in the old car, you're holding onto leather. On this, you're holding onto plastic, and it's the same with the grab handles as well. Plus, you don't have that little extra sun visor here. Reason being, you don't need it because that pod just blanks out the sun. That's full of all the cameras for the ADAS system. Another improvement is the location of the cup holders. Wouldn't be ideal if it was manual, but it's better than having them under the armrest like you do on the old car, because then they just get in the way of your elbow. I don't like the fact you've got this little gear selector lozenge. It means that if you don't want to use the paddles, you'd rather use a lever, you can't. It's paddles only for manual shifts on this car now, unfortunately. The sport seats are a £2,500 option, and if you're a rear passenger, you won't want them fitted because while they look cool with their carbon backs, they eat into knee room. Look, that's very tight. Headroom, it's okay, but people over 6 foot will struggle back here. Now, in terms of the rest of it, I like the suede material here in the back and the way it mimics the seats in the front with this quilting effect, and it grips you well, which is good. What's not so good is that Audi has cheaped out with some of the quality here in the rear. So, scratchy door tops here in the back. Sign of the times. There's no cheaping out in the back of the old car. Look, we've got the same door top material as in the front. We've got the same carbon fibre inlays as in the front. We've got the same leather on the door handle and on the grab handles as in the front. We've also got the same leather on the seats, which is pretty slidey. And as these seats aren't quite so contoured as they are in the back of the new car, I think you're going to be sliding about quite a bit. Now, knee room is better and headroom is a bit tighter. Overall, though, it's probably slightly more comfortable here.
The old RS3 has a bigger boot as well. It can carry 302 litres of luggage, which is 78 litres less than a standard A3 Sportback from 2012. But the new RS3 only has 282 litres of space. That's 98 litres less than a normal A3 Sportback today. However, the old RS3 is far from perfect. Here are some common issues to look out for.
The Haldex four-wheel drive systems can get a little bit gunked up, and then they don't transmit power to the rear axle quite as well as they should. Now, Audi recommends that you should change the fluid in them every 40,000 miles, but really 20,000 miles is recommended. The drive chassis in this car can be a little bit on the weak side, so if you repeatedly launch it, it can snap them. Though that's not going to stop me from drag racing this car later. If you buy one of these cars, make sure you do a thorough test drive. You want to try the DSG gearbox in all gears. If it ever pops into neutral and struggles to get into reverse, walk away, because that can be a fault that they do exhibit sometimes.
You won't have these issues with the new RS3 because it's covered by Audi's 3-year 60,000 mile warranty. But this doesn't tell the whole story. I worked out how much each car would cost if I drove them for 24,000 miles over 3 years, including insurance, servicing, fuel, tax and tyres. And it turns out the new RS3 would actually cost more to run, mainly because of the increased road tax. And there's another really good reason to consider buying an old RS3.
And it's to get your hands on this wonderful engine. It's so special. It's one of the finest engines of the past 20 years. So much character. Now, I know it's probably the most healthiest version. It needs a little bit of fettling to get it back to the power output it could produce. But do you know what? My bottom dyno cannot tell that this engine is slightly retarding its timing and 20 horsepower down from where it can be. It still feels well and truly rapid and extremely fruity from where I'm sitting. And what I like is that it works very well with this gearbox. So in first gear, floor it, or you get a nice jolt as you change gear, and a farty sound as it shifts up, and the gear shifts are really quite rapid. It's a good combination. However, do not get buying this car if you're really into chucking a hot hatch down a back road and you want something that's light, nimble, agile, responsive, because the RS3 is not that. It really isn't. It likes to understeer. Go a little bit too quickly into bend, it'll push on. Go a little bit too hard on the throttle out of a bend, it'll push on. Turn a corner at a moderate speed, it'll seem to want to push on. This car is all about the understeer. So basically, the idea is to just get in a straight line and floor it. And I think the kind of people that buy these cars generally spend most of their time cruising about, then giving it a blast on the motorway or when overtaking to enjoy that engine. You're not taking it out of a weekend to go and enjoy your favourite country roads. Oh no, that's your bag. You're better off with a slower Ford Focus RS Mark II, though those are way more expensive than these. Or maybe better, just get a Renault Sport Mégane from the same era. Not as quick, but way more engaging in terms of the handling.
But neither of those cars is as rare as this original RS3. Ford actually sold 4,000 Mark II Focus RSs in the UK, and Renault sold around 2,000 second generation Mk1 RSs. But Audi only allocated 750 Mark I RS3s for the UK.
I remember when I first drove this when it was new, I thought the suspension was rather wooden feeling and a bit uncomfortable. Actually today, it doesn't feel too bad. It's not terrible over bumps. I don't mind it. Maybe it's softened up over the years. Maybe that's one of the good things about the aging process. What's not so good about this particular car though, is that when you're cruising on the motorway and just doing about 70 miles an hour, that upgraded exhaust just drones. It's like, it's really, really annoying. So I think if you get one of these, you probably want the exhaust stock, unless you're doing a proper tune on it and you're going to get some serious performance out of it. Overall though, I think this car has stood the test of time really well.
But what about the brand new model?
It's so clear to tell that this new RS3 is related to the old one. That engine is just so familiar, only here it's more ferocious, it's more responsive, and it's just more on it. Wherever you are in the rev range, it's bonkers. Yeah, it's still got the same fruity delights, but what is different is that the engine isn't the only star of the show, because now the chassis is just as an important part of the experience as the engine, and it complements it like mwah, chef's kiss. So whereas with the old car, it just wanted to push, understeer, understeer. This one doesn't. The front axle really digs in. It's responsive, it bites, it gets the car turning. In fact, if you pitch it in quickly, the car will rotate on you. It wants to rotate. It's completely unrelated to the old RS3 in that respect. But it's not only the front axle that is massively improved, it is the rear axle. So because you've got the clever rear diff, once you've got the car rotating, you can really drive it from the rear axle when you put the power down. I mean, being brutally honest, the old RS3 felt like front wheel drive, four wheel drive kind of stuff. This one feels proper four-wheel drive, to the point that actually sometimes it feels a bit rear-wheel drive. Oh yeah, look at it, just it's way more fun, way more engaging. This is a car that you would take out for a blast at the weekend, not just having fun overtaking people or blasting down the motorway. The old RS3 is one-dimensional. This one is multi-dimensional. Anyone who says that new cars have got worse, they haven't back-to-back the old RS3 and this new one, because this one has definitely gotten better. And it's especially gotten better when you think about the fact that when you adjust the new price of the old RS3, 40 grand for inflation, at today's prices, it's 60 grand. So the same as this car, but this car is night and day better. And for dailying as well, the suspension feels slightly more compliant, yet somehow it manages to keep the car flatter in the bends than the old car. You're definitely getting more for your money nowadays. Audi's engineers have done a fantastic job with this car. The criticisms levelled at the old one have been forgotten. This is an absolutely brilliant car, not just a brilliant engine.
And the new RS3's clever differential also has a pretty wild party trick, drift mode. This RS Torque rear setting uses a pair of multi-plate clutches attached to the rear differential to send 100% of the rear axle torque to just the outside wheel. This is supposed to make the car rotate quicker and slide about more on the throttle, a bit like a rear-wheel drive car. But does it work?
So that was it there. It was starting to come round, but then the ESP just killed it, and I can't turn the ESP off. Let's try just going into normal mode. What a load of rubbish. It's not working.
I've previously got this drift mode to work in older RS3s by disabling the ESP completely, but this car won't let me do it. The ESP kept jabbing the brakes on as soon as the back end started to slide.
No. ESC, just killing everything. What a load of bollocks!
And then I discovered a new problem.
No, won't even launch.
This is the problem with new cars. They're so complicated that one small issue can cause loads of connected systems to throw up faults. However, I finally managed to get launch control to engage. So before I encountered any more errors, I jumped into the old RS3 and got ready for a drag race.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, got dropped off the line. Oh, that was a brilliant launch. There's a bit of a delay and I wasn't ready for it. I mean, that's night and day.
I've no idea where Matt is. I just know he's behind me.
I forgot about the delay on these old cars, Nick. There didn't seem to be any with yours.
I think I still had to time it to get this off the line at exactly the right moment, but this thing took off brilliantly. Once it got going, there was no catching me.
No. Can you give me another go? I think I can do a better job.
I certainly can.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, the launch was good.
That was perfectly synchronized, but this thing's got legs.
It hooked up so well, but that new car is just gone.
Oh yeah, once we get going, this has so much more power and torque.
No, 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 no. Oh my goodness, that is like 13 years of progress.
It's interesting because we got off the line together and for the first car length or two, we were actually quite level. But then once we get going, the more power, the more torque in this car just carries it away.
Oh well, I've got to say the way this took off from the line, it was really brutal, like bang, but it just didn't have the grunt after that.
So then, what exactly happened? Well, the new RS3 won. It completed the standing quarter mile in 12.2 seconds. The old RS3 took 13.4 seconds. During the race, the new RS3 accelerated from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.8 seconds, which is exactly what Audi claims. The old RS3 took 4.8 seconds, which is 2/10 slower than it's supposed to do, but still pretty impressive for a 13-year-old car. Now let's test in-gear acceleration with a rolling race from 50 miles an hour in third gear.
3, 2, 1, go. Wow.
Oh, this is going to be another easy win. Oh, look at that.
Level for so long, but now it's so long, new RS3.
Just absolutely demolished the old car.
That was not what I was expecting at all.
Your car actually seemed to pick up pretty well, all things considered.
It did, so it's good, like in that meat of the torque, but as we've seen from the dyno, it's at the top end where it loses that, and that's where you just pull ahead. And obviously in a drag race, it's all about power, whereas that initial roll on is about torque, and it's delivering good torque. But yeah, in the end, you just gap me massive. Gap me massive, sounds weird.
I decided to weigh these cars to see if that could explain why the new RS3 is so much quicker. And despite modern cars usually getting heavier with each generation, it actually weighed around 50 kilograms less than the Mk1 RS3. This is mainly because it has a lighter aluminium engine block instead of a heavy cast iron one. However, I also wanted to compare these cars to Audi's claimed DIN curb weight figures, which are measured when the fuel tanks are 90% full. So I factored in the weight of fuel for each car needed to reach that level, and the old RS3 actually performed slightly better. It weighed 5 kilograms less than Audi claimed, whereas the new car was 20 kilograms overweight compared to what it should be. So now, let's see how they compare in a brake test.
Here comes the line now. Oh, it's shaking. Core blimey, governor. Okay, that's different.
That's very different. That's 2 or 3 car lengths different, isn't it?
Doug did say this needed some new discs. I think he might be right. It probably needs some new pads as well.
Maybe it does now, but interestingly, I think there's enough space between us for the generation of RS3 between us, if that makes sense.
Easily enough space, which is quite worrying. So then what's my final verdict? Well, £10,000 to own this fabulous 5-cylinder engine. It's a bargain, and just be thankful that you also get some wheels and some bodywork to move it around in. The new RS3, fabulous engine yet again, but it's also got a fabulous chassis. And do you know what? Back in the day, the old RS3 was a good car. This new RS3 is a great car, and that's why it wins this test.